Hello, I'm Mark Baer. You're watching the YourTown television program. My guest, Elizabeth Murray. We're here to discuss Rites of Nature in Kinship with Trees, a new exhibition at the Pacific Grove Center.
Art Center, yeah.
So
I'm
tell me about this.
Oh, it is a dream come true. It's in such a large space so that I can really show my huge paintings that are emergence into the forest and emergence into color and light and my various feelings and relationships.
So let's give the name of the show again. Let's just say it. I want to hear you say it.
Rites of Nature in Kinship with Trees.
Okay, and so here's the catalog. This is a beautiful catalog. It's 5 years worth of work, and just a bit of background. Where you live in Monterey, you live in the house that Charles Rollo Peters once lived in, who was a famous nocturne painter and had a salon and was kind of in his day the guy. And now you've built on that property your own studio.
Yes.
5 years ago.
Yes.
And this is the fruit of that 5 years.
Yes.
So
yes.
let's talk about that voyage.
Thank you. Well, of course, it was a life dream to have my own studio, and I decided in order to make that and pay for that I would bring groups to Monet's garden, to Giverny, and teach photography and painting and earn money through my art and through selling paintings. And that's what I was able to do. It took 5 years. And then we started building it in November of '99 and just finished it when the pandemic occurred and everybody was shut down.
Okay. So let's back up a little bit. So the relationship with Monet and Monet's garden in France has been something that you've been involved with for
40 years.
40 years. So, and before we got on camera, we talked about the journey about Monet going from very realistic to abstraction. Mm-hmm. And you said that didn't really happen until he had his studio and started staying home. So let's reiterate that a bit.
Yes. Well, I think, at least for me, and what I know of Monet, having studied him a long time, is my journey is when I stay home and I can go deeper into my sense of spirit and deeper into my subject and walking into eldership, which holds wisdom and life experience, then I feel like I can express myself in something that is not literal and something that is more ephemeral, of this moment, experimenting, of spirit, of a different kind of expression. And for me, it takes a certain kind of confidence to do that and huge amount of more literal experience.
So why trees? Let's start with the basics.
Well, I love nature and I am at the service of the natural world. I find that's where spirit resides. And I've been a gardener most of my life, and I love trees, and I find that they are sentient beings. They have their own spirit. And I like the metaphors that they go into the deep underground. They have mutual thriving, they have communications, they're in the unseen world, they're in presence, and then they go into the ephemeral and into the light. There's many forms for me. But to spend time with trees is a teaching, and sometimes I spend days drawing, painting, listening in the natural world.
The show is big, the work is big. It was really gorgeous, but I said, it's not a show about trees, it's a show about color, and trees were your models, as I saw it, and the more abstract it became, the more you saw trees in its a weird way, So let's talk about just this journey from with color and from a realistic to to an abstraction, but also this is kind of what happened with Monet as well.
Yes.
And it's not something that anybody thought out for sure. So
No.
what do you feel about that?
Well, I feel like part of it is giving myself permission. And I used to use a lot of color. Then I stopped to discipline myself, and I only used 6 colors. And for maybe 20 years, only 6 colors. And then those colors I could blend so well, and dreams would show me new colors, and they were the 6 colors Monet used. And I really got good at mixing. But during the pandemic and during this time of moving into my studio and wanting expansion in my isolation, I gave myself more color. And I started playing with more and bigger. And yes, playing with the forms of the trees because I love spending time with them. But it was an inward journey as much as a outward journey. And being a gardener and being someone who spends a lot of time in the natural world, I also observe living color. And I think there's something different than reflective color, painted color. There's something when a plant is alive.
That it vibrates.
It vibrates. I've recently got this instrument called the plant wave where I can hook up to plants and their movement of fluids, of water, translates into sound. So I get this vibration and I can make music with it, and we'll be having that at the show. And so I've also been experimenting with listening to instruments from people playing and then seeing color. So I've spent a lot of time in music and listening and translating that into color. So it's playing with vibration a lot.
Let's talk about scale, because having the paintings allowed you, and let's talk about staying closer to home, what that allowed you, and you, the parallel you did that with Monet.
Yeah. Well, I love intimate scale, traveling, sitting in a forest. You can paint small, quickly, play with colors with watercolor. I make all these folded books. I like having a large expanse where it's not limited. But then coming home to the studio and taking that essence that I've been given by the forest and then making it really large. And at first I put a pencil on a stick and drew big like Matisse did, and then painted big. And then I started to resent the lines and wanting to go more and more free and paint without coloring in the lines and getting out more and more. And then allowing myself is like giving yourself permission to experiment. And one of my musician friends really inspires me of fluidity. And you can only have fluidity when you are, your skills are a part of you. They're not something you try to think about. So that's the dance that I've been playing with. And with Monet, at the last third of his life, he started to stay home in his garden. And he started to really experience the garden as this vibratory place, and the pond in particular, and reflections and abstractions, because that's what was being called. And I, just as part of staying home and working and going within and without this kind of cycle, abstractions have been a gift for me and a delight. And yellow, for example, is something I've been eating up. I have so many tubes of yellow, and it's an expensive color, and you can't really make it on your own. And how to work with yellow as a metaphor for light, and then yellow with the sky blue, of course, makes green, and that is all about chlorophyll and about plants. So this combination has really, I feel the vibration of it, and it also brings me joy. And joy is a good medicine for times that are difficult or could be fearful.
People don't understand how painters work, and like moving towards abstraction is not a strategy. it's something that happens. It's an experience. So
Yeah.
and people either have a real experience or not an experience, and I guess you can fake it, but there's nothing in it for the painter if you fake it.
Yeah.
You've had a real experience,
Yeah.
and you don't think it out, you don't plan it, you don't strategize it, you don't see it in a window someday and think I'll do 6 of those.
No.
This is why it's 5 years to make this show, and 5 years is quick.
Well, that's because I had a few years before that.
Right, but it's not. You say, well, 5 years. That's like lightning to come into this language. It's this language. It's this freedom. It's this dance.
Yeah.
It's this euphoria. Is this journey that you're taking,
Yes.
and it's what people who have faith have, I think, who don't have paintbrushes.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. Because I think it is a spiritual journey, at least for me. It's very much a spiritual journey. And it takes a certain kind of self-knowledge and confidence. And I can sometimes hear voices that are telling me, why are you doing this? And who's going to buy this? And this isn't any good. And then you have to just quiet that and be really
Well, you have to
in the
listen
moment.
too, because it's not like they're not wrong sometimes. So these are real. This is what a lifetime of painting tells you. You have to, okay, stop here, sit, let's reconsider this.
Yeah.
We're off the path.
Yeah.
Because you can go on a wrong path a long ways
Yeah.
if you don't have that questioning.
Yeah.
So it's a matter
true.
of living without doubt.
No.
You might walk off a cliff.
That's true.
It's
That's true.
It's
true.
it's these things are more complicated than they seem. And it's just if something's telling you no, you have to trust that as well,
true.
and sit and look, and then you
That's
see.
true.
I'm thinking this is the problem, but that may not be the problem. In other words, a painting resists you, but not for necessarily the reason you think it resists you. And
It's a relationship.
It could be
It's a
something else,
relationship.
and then the answer is something else, and then that
Yes.
answer's there. The path isn't always clear.
That's true. That's true. And sometimes one painting will take a long time, not because you're painting it each day, but because it needs to mature, just like a plant. You're not going to get fruit right away. You have to cultivate it. And so some paintings take a long time to cultivate, and they speak to you, but you have to keep in relationship with them. And sometimes I will even take a picture of them and go take a break by walking my dog or something, and be looking at the painting while I am walking my dog, to be continually in conversation.
Yeah, say, oh, and then you say, that's it. It's like it's never. This is not an intellectual thing. It's a experiential thing.
It's vibration.
And it's a lifetime of work with the hands. It's a telling. It's a look. Things are right or they're not right.
Yes.
And when they're not right, they're wrong. But why they're wrong? It's not because someone's not going to buy it or they're not going to understand it. They're not right. And that's such an interesting thing to have to work through.
It's a dance.
Every one of these pieces in the show is different. There's no. It's each experience that you've had with these paintings is a new painting experience. There's not, don't pay me 20 blue ones or a blue one and a red one or it's and that comes through in the vibrancy of the show. Let's take care of some business. What else is coming up in this show that people need to know about?
Well, it's going to be there till February 27th.
Okay.
But I'm creating several public events, and one is on January 25th from 2 to 4. We will have music, song, poetry, and story about trees in the gallery. So people can be surrounded by them. And the wonderful singer-songwriter Lawrence Cole, elder, beautiful man, community community leader. He's coming down from Port Townsend, Washington, and he will help lead some of those songs. And that will be really special. And some of the incredible poets in our community have written beautiful poems about trees, and they will be sharing them. So it's about essence and seed planting and heart opening and exploration. Then the second day, to honor that Lawrence is here, and he's also a grief tender, tending communities who are in grief. And grief has been a pathway for me from heartbreak and death. And right now, many of us are grieving fire losses, grieving loss of species, grieving climate change results. And what we grieve is what we love. And I find that it's really important that we grieve and then we recommit. So on Sunday, the 26th, it'll be 3 hours. And my friends, the Baers from Oregon, are coming down, and we are preparing tree rounds, burning them, cutting them, wire brushing them, and we'll set up places for each person to make their own tree ring print, nature print. And I have this special mob paper, and we'll ink them, and they'll be able to press all those circles. And then I want each person to look at the circles and think about their lives and how they're connected and where they stand and who or what stands behind them. Their kinship, their places, their culture, their ancestors, their animals, and then how they are right now, and then looking forward 7 generations to their preferred future and where they are willing to make action. So art and science, metaphor, then we'll do some ritual around grief. And in the middle of the show is this table that I made with my friend, the great spirit nest weaver, Jason Fan, made out of manzanita and madrone. And we have a bowl of water on it. So we'll make some offerings there. And we'll do song, and we will decide to how we want to recommit to the natural world and to one another for mutual thriving. So that will be on the 26th of January, and then February 15th I'll do a nature printing and probably be some other pop-ups. But I want people to come, and I want them to enjoy, and I hope to do some things with children there as well.
Okay, let's reiterate where exactly it is.
It's at the Pacific Grove Art Center, which is on Lighthouse Avenue in Pacific Grove. And you go up the stairs. It's open. It's only closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, but it's open from Wednesday through Sunday. And I'm in this big gallery, over 2,000 square feet, with some huge paintings. And there's interactions. There's places that you can write notes, your stories about trees, how trees have been a part of your life. Love notes to trees.
And again, this beautiful catalog.
Yeah.
So, which is its own pretty impressive thing.
Thank you.
And
my brother Thomas really encouraged me and helped me make that.
Yeah, this is a big achievement.
Thank you. Thank you. It's the first time a book of my own paintings. Yeah.
It's exciting.
Thank you.
Okay, one more time, what's the name of the show?
It's called Rites, R-I-T-E-S, Rites of Nature in Kinship with Trees.
I'm Mark Baer.
Elizabeth
Murray, YourTown Television. Go see the show.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Good job. Good job, my friend.
Yeah.